Like, never like, never like, never like.
Hello. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for coming back. If you're new to my channel, my name's Arena, and thank you for clicking on my video. Today, I wanted to speak about something that's really touched me today, and it's when we feel it's. I just wanted to talk about when we feel low and when we don't feel like ourselves and we're going through a low period in our life. One of my friends, in fact, the most beautiful thing happened today. One of my friends messaged me to say that she was in a bit of a low place and she's feeling quite lonely and doesn't really feel like she's achieved very much, and she just feels like not herself. And at the same time, I'm replying to my message and saying, let's meet up, let's have a chat. At the same time, another girlfriend of mine messages me a video, which was the most beautiful and kind of self-loving video that I could have received in that I could have received in that moment. And it was like the most beautiful synchronicity that I realized in that moment, how one person can impact the life of another just through one simple little video, or being able to reach out to a person and say, do you know what, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I'm really not feeling well. I'm not my best. I'm not able to see through this little bit of darkness. And just off the back of this conversation, because it's really made me want to express something. I have had many low points in my life, and I think the most beautiful thing that has pulled me through and saved me through those moments is being able to turn to someone and say, I'm ashamed right now, or I'm embarrassed, or I'm so afraid to say this because it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things to do when we're trying to be vulnerable. And to be able to turn to someone and say, I'm not feeling great and I'm not feeling like myself. And right now I'm terrified to say this, but I'm willing to put myself out there and to share that with someone. And that is such a brave thing to do. And because I've been there, I really understand that. And so I would encourage anybody, if they're going through something, to reach out. There are other ways, and there was a point in my life where I really felt like there wasn't anybody I could turn to, and there was, but just for me, it didn't feel like there was anybody. And I also then looked into things like the Samaritans, and there are ways of getting someone to just talk to you. And I would say, if you're really struggling and there is nobody that you can turn to and say those words, I would say look into something like the Samaritans and pick it up at the phone and speaking to just someone. And sometimes the people that we think would completely not even understand or wouldn't want to engage with that, they may surprise you. And it's worth just reaching out. Whatever, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member. I was terrified of admitting that I wasn't okay. And it's crazy because I do think there's so much, even in the act of doing that, that's saving ourselves. And there's such beauty and magic in doing that and realizing that most people would want to be there and help if they can. And that was a really beautiful realization for me. So honestly, today I'm honored that my friend turned to me and could say that, because that in itself just shows that what a strong person she is and that she will be okay. And also, I just feel there's so much beauty in the world when people can come through for each other and just encourage each other. And one of the things, whilst we're on the topic, for me, when I had my low points, reaching out and talking to someone, what that did is it took me out of my own mental space. And I remember calling friends and we would just talk about the silliest things. We wouldn't be talking about the fact that I'm not well. I would have told them that I'm struggling, but we would have talked about trivial, silly things, and we would have just had a chat and a giggle. And maybe I wasn't ready to laugh, but it took me out of my, the thoughts that I was having at the time. And then over time, I just found that I was having more of those chats, and my friends didn't mind just picking up the phone and just like carrying me through that point in my life a little bit. And the other thing that I realized is that I did have to pull through. These kind of thoughts and these kind of feelings, they can overwhelm us. And I think if you don't try and pull yourself out of it by reaching out, by going outside, by going and exercising, by distracting yourself and getting busy with things and really trying to pull yourself out of that state, it's very difficult for it to just on its own go away. So that's the other thing I would recommend, which is what worked for me, is trying to get busy with things and trying to do the simplest and smallest of things just to start feeling that sense of achievement, even if it's things like making your bed every day or having a shower, not even every day, but just making sure you're showering yourselves and you're washing yourself. Maybe listening to a little bit of music that you enjoy, maybe putting on a YouTube video that calms you down, maybe it's a little bit of meditation, maybe it's trying out a little bit of yoga. You've never tried it before. Maybe that will help you relax and put your mind into the moment and into the movements that you're making rather than being stuck in your head. Maybe trying to read a book. There are lots and lots of things that you can try at least and try and pull yourself out of that, but you do have to try and do it for yourself and try and pull yourself out of that, because it's much harder if you don't do that and if you sit with it for too long. And I'm not saying you have to ignore the fact that you're feeling a certain way, but you can't sit in that for a really long time, because then it's harder and harder to pull yourself out of it. And I totally would encourage even therapy. If I never did that, and I'm totally not opposed to it, it's just I did find my own ways of pulling myself out of it. But also, it's important to get to know ourselves, and it's important to process our own feelings, and it's important to keep ourselves nurtured and cared for, because when you feel like that, there's nothing you can give to anyone or anything else. So it really has to become about how can we help ourselves feel better, and you do have to become quite selfish for a while. It is what it is. I had to do that. I had to really focus on myself, and I had to reach out to people and kind of use the resources I had at my disposal at that time to try and pull myself out of it. I am not saying it's easy. It's definitely not easy, and I have been there, and I know it isn't easy. But it's important to not feel completely alone and completely stuck, and find a way to express it and find a way to step out of that. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and just know that you're not alone. So many people go through this, and we all go through it, I'm sure, at some point in our lives. It is normal. We all have highs and we all have lows, and they can be really big lows. But don't forget that you are valuable, and you are deserving of friendship, you are deserving of love, you are deserving of care, even if it's just from yourself to yourself. That love has to come from you first. And there's nothing wrong in giving yourself the things you need to recover from something like this, but don't forget, you are loved, and I love you, and I know that you are strong, and you will overcome this. You will find that smile, and you will laugh again, and you will feel joy again. And this is just a phase, and this is just a time. It's just a period. You will come out of this, I promise you. And don't give up on that. And I love you. And that's all I wanted to say. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in my next one.
Never like, never like,